So I titled this video, Put Your Mask On First. Well, I'm not talking about the craziness the world experienced over the last few years. Although, at least in our area, if I come across somebody actually wearing a mask, it always takes me by surprise a little bit, because I immediately think, are they sick? Or do they think I'm sick? Or what's going on there? I mean, do what you want, but it always throws me off a little bit to come across somebody physically wearing a mask. Although, if you're doing yard work, as I used to do, if I was cleaning up leaves, I would wear a mask to prevent inhaling leaves into my lungs or things of that nature. So that did help, because my allergies can just go off the rails. So maybe they're having an allergy thing. I don't know. But putting your mask on first, this might sound selfish, but it's a good way to describe taking care of ourselves. So I didn't know what I was going to talk about today until I read that it was National Healthcare Decision Day, and so that gave me something to springboard off of. So I know this from flying and traveling, and then my buddy Matt Starr, who does coaching, has used this analogy before too, is that part of the airline safety thing is when you get on a plane and they go through where all the exits are and how to buckle your seatbelt and things like that. They say in the event of loss of cabin pressure or things like that, an oxygen mask is going to drop from the ceiling, and they tell you to put your mask on first. So you put your mask on first. Why is that? Why would we do that? Well, I'll tell you. Put your mask on first, then assist others. So, if you're traveling with children, they aren't going to know what to do, assuming that you can stay composed and do the right thing. To put your mask on first so that you don't pass out and that you can stay in a position of helping others, is that you took care of yourself first, and then you're able to assist other people who needs assistance. I think women are sometimes guilty of this, at least in my experience with my own mom and then watching my wife, is that they'll take care of everybody else except for themselves. And then they wind up sick or just run down and things like that because they didn't carve any time out for themselves. I have drum students who are people who work and are out doing things, and they'll come in and they say, well, I didn't get any time to practice this week. Really? In 7 days you couldn't find a half hour to carve out for yourself to play the drums? Or you didn't find a moment just to stop and breathe for a second? We're just go, 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 go. At some point you're going to hit the wall, and you're going to burn out. I've been my own business owner since 2004, maybe 3. I think it's 4. But at any rate, I see some people on here who are business owners, and you guys probably could relate, is that when you're self-employed, your mind is just always in that state. But don't forget to take care of yourself. Don't forget to take time out of your day and just breathe for a moment. And let your body and your mind relax. Yeah, I think it's really, really important to be able to do that. So put your mask on first, then assist others, because you're just no good to anybody if you're unable to do anything. So it's really important. Put your mask on first. Well, how does that tie to music? well, not just music, but some people might view that as being selfish. Really, I don't think it's selfish to take care of yourself. I think it's a responsibility bestowed upon all of us to take care of ourselves, mentally and physically. So, uh, you know, I'm scanning my notes. So how is that goal related? Well, probably for the 20th time yesterday. I didn't do this 20 times yesterday. Over a period of time. I've watched the movie Whiplash about 20 times. Now, if you don't know about the movie Whiplash, the short of it is that it's about a drummer going off to a specific prestigious college known as Schaefer, and which is a fictitious school, by the way. But it's hard to get into this music school, and then one of the instructors there is very abusive, both physically and verbally. And of course, it's a Hollywood type movie, so they're using people who don't actually know how to play the drums to pretend they're a drummer. So all of us drummers see that. And we tend to get hung up about those kind of things in movies. But the point is the story, the story that's being told. And I have students all the time and other musicians who will ask me, did you see the movie Whiplash? What did you think of it? Well, I've watched it 20 times at least, maybe more. I still don't know if I like that movie or not. But I continue to watch it because I extract things out of that I think are probably relatable to having dreams and having goals and this determination to do it. But not just that, having people influencing you and how they're influencing you to do things better at a higher level, which I think that's what the teacher in the movie Whiplash was trying to achieve, was to push people beyond what they think they're capable of doing or withstanding. And I think that's an important lesson in that movie. And there's a scene I actually posted two screenshots I took of the movie where the drummer, who is Andrew Neiman, is breaking up with his girlfriend that he didn't have for very long anyway. But he preemptively broke up with her because the music and what he was pursuing was so important to him that because of that drive and determination, he wouldn't have any time for anything else, including her. And that even if he was spending time with her, he would be thinking about drums and thinking about his career and thinking that wouldn't be fair to her. So he was just now, as difficult as it was for the girlfriend to hear these things, I think it was how he did it might have been a little rude, possibly, and seemed selfish, which the music business can be very selfish. But he's putting his mask on first. He's thinking, I'm a disservice to myself and those around me if I'm not taking care of myself first. And he's at an age too where he could do those things that are more self-centered. I'm close to being 52 years old. I have a wife and 4 kids and a mortgage and those kinds of responsibilities. And so even though I may appear that it's all music all the time, there still are those things that I have to be responsible for and take care of, and on we go. The cool thing is that Mary also is a musician, and she's my business partner, which she's been my business partner since day one anyway. So I've got that going for me. Good morning to you too, Greg. So put your mask on first so that you can take care of yourself and then help others. So, again, in that movie Whiplash, the teacher, Terrence Fletcher, was pushing certain students to a breaking point to see if they would completely give up and drop out and give up music completely, or were they going to rise above the garbage and really excel and really shine and really exceed. And that's how that movie ends, with Andrew drumming and overcoming this and becoming great. Or at least we can assume that that's how the story continued to unfold, the way that it ends. So he made choices to do that. And then the teacher made choices to push also. Now, my teaching style is not like Terrence Fletcher's character in that movie. I'm not in here slapping students, asking if I'm rushing or dragging. But each student is different, and their goals can be similar but different in how they want to achieve them. There are their ideas about what's important or not important. That can vary greatly. Their ages are drastic. The 5-year-old student I have is getting near 6 years old, and I have a 70-year-old student. So everybody's goals and ambitions are different. However, there's sometimes when you can be showing a student how to do something, and in my eyes, it's very simple. And I know that once they achieve a certain level of ability, they'll look back at this thing that they think is hard, and they'll realize how simple it is too. I don't know if it's probably just a human nature thing to look at something and be explained how to do it, and then to immediately make up in our minds that, oh, that's going to be hard, without even trying yet. So then now we're navigating that part as being a teacher. Like, how do I explain this or show them that this preconceived idea is false? That they're actually capable of doing something. And I experienced this too when I was working at Mountain View High School, when I had anywhere from 18 to 25 students under me working together as a team, and now that's a whole different game, so to speak, because now you have a group of people can be very wide, varying degrees of ability, and that age group too. There's so much that how freshmen to seniors will change. Their maturity and all of these things come into play, and you're trying to get them all to play well together. And again, they're thinking this is very difficult. Well, you got to motivate them somehow to help them realize that yes, this is possible to do this if you just do these things. So as a teacher, that's what I'm facing every single day, is helping people realize they're capable of doing more than they think they are. That's true with athletics too. I've stood right on the sideline with the coach of a high school football team screaming and yelling at their team to get a job done. Now, I've never screamed and yelled at my drum students, but for the football team, there's a lot at stake for them to be the best. And I kept coming back to the movie Whiplash with this teacher that's very abusive physically and verbally. Not saying that that's how you should approach achieving greatness or helping somebody realize they're capable of doing more than they think they are. But I still think there's a lesson in all of that. So, take care of yourself, put your mask on first, then assist others. It's a mindset that we have to be in. You know, when it comes to teaching, I'm at a point now that, a handful of years ago, I thought that was going to be really hard to have enough students regularly to support me and my family and my household. I thought it was out of reach. But then I had people come into my life that said, it's not out of reach. Stop deciding what your outcome's going to be. If you're taking all the right steps and doing all the right things, then the outcome is going to be what you want it to be. And so that's a lesson that I'm continuously learning and leaning on and remembering as I move forward. So, just dropping back, to the healthcare thing too is, I need to be physically and mentally fit. So I need to take care of myself as far as those things are concerned. I don't have any pressing issues at the moment, but I think if I don't make some changes in my life regarding that, then those things are going to be inevitable to have some kind of problem. And so there was like this saying that said, if you don't make time for your health, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. Something along that line. It was more eloquently put than what I just said, but that's the nuts and bolts of that. So that's one thing as I'm heading through the year that I need to have some discipline in and to make some corrections in how that goes. And I know for a fact that I'll look and feel better. That's just a fact of that. So I need to put my oxygen mask on first and make sure that I carve time out for myself to be able to be healthy physically and mentally. And I don't really want to use this as an excuse necessarily, but this year was kicked off with the news of my mom's illness, and this is something that was completely out of her control. It's just she didn't do anything wrong to have this brain disease that was spontaneous just come along and then took her life the beginning of February. And so, all of my plans for my goals and things was interrupted by that. And so I started spending as much time with my parents as I possibly could while still keeping my work commitments. So I'm kind of like on a 3-month delay of moving forward. So, but here we are, back at it, back in the game, back to getting things underway and moving forward. So, next steps, next level stuff. I remember, so going back when I even myself was thinking that teaching for a living was out of reach. Like, am I going to find 40 students in this valley who will be willing to come to me and take drum lessons? Having 10 or 15 or even 20, when I had 20 students, when I had reached that marker, that was like, oh man, can I really go beyond 20? I don't know. And then when I reached 30, I was like, oh, here we are. And then I think it was like 32 students I hit that mark, and I was really blown away. And that's when I decided to just make the decision to completely shut down my landscaping business and concentrate solely on music. And once I made that decision, once I made that commitment, the other 8 students just came really fast. And so, like I said before, I had some really great people who said, yes, this is possible, do these things, and it's going to happen. So I started doing that. I will also tell you that as I started doing that, there were people who came out of the woodwork who were very discouraging, and I call them the naysayers, saying, yeah, good luck with that. That would kind of be like the default saying, a little bit sarcastic. Yeah, good luck with that. As if to say, I've tried that before and failed. And some of these people have never tried anything before. So if you never tried anything, then you really didn't even give yourself a chance to fail at it. You just decided it was hard and you weren't going to do that. So it's hard to have people come into your life or who are already part of your life to tell you good luck with that, as if to say that's not going to work out. So getting the teaching thing going, and then as that went on further and further, was improving the space of the studio and making it pleasant for people to be here, to want to be here, to know that when they walked in, not just to this room, but when they walked in the building, that they were immediately surrounded by music and stuff that was all music-oriented things. They're surrounded by drums and posters and drum heads and cool stuff like that, and then having a production room and all of those things. So making it vibey and a place where people want to be. So that was really cool to see the evolution of that coming along. Greg says the naysayers are the ones who never did anything on their own, by and large. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So getting the teaching thing going. I see that James Harrison just popped up. And James is a longtime friend. And James was one person who was in my corner as I started going down this path. Because James has been a drum instructor for decades. And he knows how all of that works. So it was awesome to talk to him and lean on him for advice on how all this was put together, and just taking the ball and run with it. And so here I am a handful of years into doing this now, and I love it. It's very rewarding, and it's cool to be part of helping others. But I had to put my mask on first. I had to take care of me to get myself right and ready, and then to move forward with that. So, step 2 in that process was, as we were developing this space and looking at things down the road of where we can expand into other areas of music, was to be able to record drums on my own. And so researching that equipment and things like that. And, going to people who I knew and trusted for advice and information, and to make good choices in equipment and things like that. So my original thing was, well, I could be able to track drums here, and I need this room to sound a certain way, and that led to building the control room, the production room, and Mary became very interested in that, and thankfully so, because without her involvement and her dedication and drive, the studio side of this would not be where it is today. So she jumped full in. She jumped right into the deep end. There was no testing of the waters to see if she would like that, and she just jumped straight in and figured out how to swim, and has been doing really well at it. She doesn't know everything, no, but she's constantly learning, and so again, when I started saying I'm going to turn this into also a recording studio, some of the people that said teaching drum lessons for a living was going to be hard or not worth it or wasn't going to work out, again, here's a recording studio, and the naysayers saying, well, good luck with that. Thankfully, I didn't let those derail me from what my hopes and goals were. And we just wrapped up a recording session for a guy from California who is a mutual friend of some other musicians here in town, said, hey, I've got a buddy who wants to do the song. So he recommended us to do the recording, and I played drums on that, and we had other people come in and worked off of his demo recording and built his song. And then he flew into town last weekend and came in and sang, and we finished getting all the recording of that together, and I think she's done with the mix, and it sounds awesome. So the ripple effect, if you continually do great things, then great things are going to keep happening, but it's making those really great choices. There's another guy in town who moved here from California during the crazy pandemic garbage of the world, and escaping California, and came here, and he's a former Blue Devil snare drummer, and he also had played drum set. He had some kind of health thing come along that created a physical barrier to keep doing some of the things he used to do. But he's part of this group of songwriters that Mary and I are in, and he does just this amazing work, and he's just a cool guy and has a great attitude. And I'm reading James's comment. Hey, Rick, good morning to you. James says you followed through. That's why you are reaping the rewards. Yes, thank you. So much of it under your tutoring and your advice and encouragement. Biggest thing, that encouragement part there. So anyway, this new friend of mine, we had coffee a couple Saturdays ago, and he actually is now the drum instructor at Mountain View, which used to be my job. And so he and I hit it off, and we were talking about teaching and those kind of things. He was telling me this story about his mom had instilled this idea into him that if you're going to do something, do it 100%. Don't do anything less than 100%. And I messaged him last night because I was watching Whiplash, and I said, what was it that your mom said? And he basically said, whatever you do, don't suck. Like if you're doing something and you suck at it, like fix it before you keep moving forward. It was much more beautiful the way that he told me the story the first time. But by and large, it's just giving 100% all the time and being exceptional all the time. That's his approach. And he's had great results in his personal life, and what he's done with the drum line at Mountain View too is really impressive. So, as Mary and I were planning the goals for this year, and having been stalled because of what was going on in my personal life with my mother and family and things like that, now we're finally at a point where we can get back to moving the ball down the field, so to speak. So the next steps to move to the next level. So I mentioned health, taking care of myself. That's number one on my list, is just to get those things in order. With teaching, I have a really great base of students, and now I'm looking at some of these holes in my schedule or times that I have available and wanting to fill those. So those time slots are early afternoon. Well, those are hard to fill with kids who are in school, because they're not out of school till between the hours of 3 and 4. Sometimes those slots are easy to fill with adults who have some flexibility in their work schedule. So I do have quite a few of those holes filled, but still. So that's where I've been having encouragement recently about teaching online. Now, I've tried to teach online before, and there are definitely some barriers that exist. in teaching online. However, it's not impossible. It's not impossible to do. So having the technology working for me is really, really important. I don't want to start offering teaching online and then there's this constant technical barrier to try to get around. I don't think that's a very professional way of approaching it. James, you have a great day too. When's tea time? You know, I've never golfed a game of golf ever in my life, but I know that James has. Yeah. So, moving back to teaching online, having really great audio and really great video is important for my end. And then also to be able to present what I need to do to students wherever they may be. Like, you need to have a bare minimum requirements of these things in order to be able to take lessons online so that their experience can be good too. Because if you get online and you have a bad experience, then that is not only just bad for them, but they're not going to recommend you to anybody else. So moving to an online format is, I believe, necessary to be able to fill some of these holes that I have in my schedule. And I definitely want to be able to do that. The other cool thing about doing that is, you know, weather in the winter here in Idaho, generally speaking, is not too bad, but I have had some snow days that did prevent some students from getting here, especially if they're traveling clear across the valley to get to where I am. So being able to say, hey, we're going to do your lesson online today instead, that would be a great option to be able to do that. Greg, yes, I'm going to get to that here in just 1 second, but yes, you speak my language, man. Mr. Klein says, and who doesn't love John Klein? I definitely do. John says, Fred is the best drum teacher I've ever seen. His talent, down-to-earth style, and sense of humor reminds me of Tim Bogart? Here comes the glasses. And several other stellar musician teachers I got to know at Musician Institute in the 1980s. John, that is very kind of you. I appreciate that. Yes. Yes, Greg. Thomas, good morning to you too, sir. I love it when I see my students popping up on here and having their support. It's awesome. So yes, online teaching, and then as Greg is mentioning here too, yes, so the other thing is I have this really great website, Fred Rock School of Drumming, and then my other website for me personally as a drummer is fredrockfisher.com. And I think those websites are great. They look great. They're easy to navigate and things like that. So what's the next step? What's the next level in all of that? So as Greg has mentioned about instructional video courses, yes, 100%. That is something that Mary and I talk about frequently, is to have some kind of possibly subscription-based website to be able to offer instructional videos. So maybe you buy a package deal, or maybe I'm putting out a new video every week, and so maybe I have like an online subscription of like $20 a month. And this isn't to necessarily, at least as far as I can see in the future, doesn't make me want to stop teaching in person here, because I really do love that, and I love the students that I see every week. But this is something that like could have a global reach. So if I had like a subscription-based type website, whether that's like $20 a month or something, and I'm putting out a new video once a week. So, they're getting drum lessons, so to speak, for $20 a week, and maybe they pay for the year. I don't know. There's a lot to consider and to navigate, but it's got to be high quality stuff as well. And I think that Drumeo has a subscription-based business model. So does Mike Johnston. Mike Johnston, I believe, is still the #1 online instructor in the world. And he was a student of Peter Magadini's, and I've talked about becoming friends with Peter Magadini before. And unfortunately, Peter Magadini had passed away last summer, but Peter had also been a big cheerleader for me in teaching and had heavily hinted multiple times about exactly what we're talking about right now. So, these ideas come along, or they're introduced to you by somebody else, and then over time you kind of massage those ideas and figure out how to make those work. So that's another thing that I'm looking at putting together, is to be able to do that. So what does it require? The knowledge and also some time dedicated to making that happen. So it's putting it on paper and making a plan, and I've already talked to some people to find out what kind of a website would support such a thing. So I've already got that in motion on knowing where to start with it. So that's cool stuff. Talking about, this facility I have is relatively small. If you've ever been here, you know what I mean. I call it cozy. But big things happen here in this small little space, and it's worked out really, really well. But as it progresses and as it gets more traction and building trust with the people that come here, and actually, it's more than that. It's just making friends with all these people. Our recording clients and our students become friends, and it becomes this little community, and it becomes this little family, and it's really exciting to be a part of that. And it's never a drag to come out here and work. It's a great thing, and I love it. And speaking of work, little side story, Todd Zuckerman was on the Drummers Education Connection 2 weeks ago, and one thing that was brought up was he hates it when people post pictures of their drum set from the stage or wherever they're playing and says, "My office for tonight." He hates that they say "my office for tonight," because the office sounds like a place that you would dread being at. That's why songs like "Working for the Weekend" exist, because you're trying to get away from your day job. You're trying to get away from work. So he really hates referring to sitting behind your drum set as the office. Like, oh, this is somewhere I have to be. And so I understand that. But I love this job. So Mr. Joffrey Stone says, it's just easier to put my glasses on. I knew from previous years from playing shows with Midline over the years that when I decided to learn drums and take lessons, Fred was the one. I know lots of drummers, but it was your love of teaching that attracted me to seek you out as a drum teacher. Oh, Joffrey, thank you so much. Thomas said we should do a friends barbecue. Yes, we should. And in fact, Mrs. F and I have talked about hosting a Fred Rock School of Drumming barbecue, which would be awesome. Just an invitation to all the students to come and hang out and have some food and talk and get to know each other. That's a thing that we got to figure that out and make that happen. You're absolutely right, Thomas. I love that. So going back to the studio, we're realizing as we're doing more and more full production things that It's not impossible to do it here. We make it work, but it is a tight squeeze. So I've had this idea for a long time about expanding and taking up more space for the studio. So we do have a goal in mind for that. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's definitely something that we're working towards. And I would love for Mrs. F to have a larger production mixing room. As great as she's doing in the small room that she's in, having something where, from a mathematical perspective, the setup is more correct, if you want to call it that, and also that, you know, when you're working with people, that they can be in that room to easily and listen and hang out, and so I think that's an important aspect to the business, is having a comfortable environment. So that's important to me. That's what I like when I go to other studios to work, is what's the environment like? Is it conducive to creativity and to moving forward with your music? So I think that's a really important factor, is the environment. And I was told years ago, like, you know, when I think it was Starbucks, you know, the colors they choose is for a certain, because it's soothing, it's relaxing to be in their coffee shop and hang out. You want to be there. So, you know, studio expansion. And then the third thing would be like the networking perspective or aspect of that I'm wanting to do higher level performance gigs. And I've had some opportunities that present themselves along the way, and I know that my name's been on the tongue of certain people off and on throughout the last few years, and it just never quite made it to the finish line to that next step. So that's something that I'm wanting to continue developing. And, you know, there's people moving here all the time who have really good bodies of work and have done some really great things and connecting. They didn't move here because they retired. They moved here because it's just a better situation for their families to be here. So it's all cool stuff, and it's just meeting them and networking and becoming friends with them, and letting them know that I can be of service to some of these people. Not that I'm asking them for work. I think I want to build relationships with those people and a trust with them, so that when an opportunity does come along, they can say, hey, you know, it'd be good drummer fit for this would be Fred Fisher. So, well, how does that all come together? It's making the time available to do it. And my time is filled with lots of stuff already. That comes full circle back to you know, when I've got students who are here, and then they walk in the next week and they said, you know, they kind of hang their head and, well, I didn't get a chance to practice anything. So in 7 days you couldn't find a moment to sit down at your drums and play. I find that hard to believe. Just schedule it, make it part of your day. But yes, I need to find more time to get the online thing going. I need to find time to be able to create content for a subscription-based website for teaching. And I need to find time for myself and my health and get those things going. So all really important stuff. So that means as I'm heading into next year, I've done this long enough to know that these timelines can take time to make happen. So there are things that I do that I seriously need to look at and consider not doing anymore, and because maybe they're no longer conducive to my goals and things that I'm trying to achieve. not because anybody or anything has done something wrong by any stretch of the imagination. It's just growth. And sometimes you outgrow the things that you're in. If you plant a tree in a 1-gallon container, that tree is going to outgrow that 1-gallon container, or that 1-gallon container will stunt the growth of the tree, so then the tree is not allowed to reach its full potential because it's in such a small container. And so then you take that tree and move it to a larger container, maybe a 5-gallon container, and then eventually it's outgrowing that as well. Again, so you're limiting to that. So if you can put that tree in the soil, in the ground, where it can grow and thrive to its potential, that's the place to be. And so that's what I'm looking at in my own life. Is I've been in this container, if you want to call it that. That's the only imagery I can come up with, is to be in a container, and I'm outgrowing that container. So it's the same as the studio space. It's we're reaching that point where we're outgrowing the space because the business is picking up and the interest is picking up. In fact, we had 2 potential recording clients come by over the weekend to check out the space and the studio and hear what we're doing here. And that looks promising to lead to being able to be of service to these people. So, yeah, that means we're going to have to do some reconstruction, which I don't mind. I like doing that, and I have the knowledge and ability to do so. But yeah, and it's just so my time to devote, to other things is going to have to be limited, or say that doing these things don't make sense to me anymore. So those aren't decisions that are made haphazardly or flippantly. They're studied and evaluated heavily to make those decisions. Because I've spent most of my music career being haphazard, and that didn't produce good results. As soon as I started being really on purpose with what I wanted to do, that's when the results started happening. Going back to, working with students, and they've predetermined that something is hard. And I always tell them, try to remember this moment where you thought this drum beat was difficult. And then, you can move on months down the road and go, remember when this thing was hard? And they go, yeah. Do you think it's hard now? Oh, no, not at all. Okay, well, you need to keep that attitude rolling. It's just an expansion of your knowledge, just getting better and better and more comfortable with what you're doing, what you know how to do. So that's the last thing I wrote on my paper was letting go of things that no longer serve a purpose, or they're taking away from moving towards those goals. I've talked, earlier on in these coffee shows, the good and goodbye is, saying goodbye to something to move forward with the next thing. Just the evolution process of moving the ball down the field. So that's that, as they say, whoever they are.